I am Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22.
I am Jeff Bell at For Whom J Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C Williams NFL, and this is the Devy Royale.
I do this day in and day out, all night long. Yeah. This all I think about. This all I care about. Y'all all I care about. Let's go, man, it's here. We televised, so you know we gotta show out. Yeah. They talking junk, so you know we gotta put them to sleep. Yeah. Let's go, man. Let's go. Don't play. Go. We do this every day. We work too hard, day in and day, like I told y'all. They don't do what we do. They don't do what we do. They never done what we did.
Off to the races. Can they catch it? No, they can't. Touchdown.
And welcome to another episode of the Devy Royale. We're here today, and we're a member of the Going For Two family. And today on the show, it's jam-packed. So we're going to get through some things. We're going to cover spring games. We're going to look at our top 5 quarterbacks of the 22 class, just so we can piss off everybody. Making our FCS picks and discussing our favorite and least favorite landing spots for the rookie class. But before we get into all that, let's kind of talk about our overall impressions of the draft and some quick news. So we had the draft this last weekend. I felt like I was on, everybody's air for hours and hours. And now that they kind of settled, what are your initial thoughts just randomly here, Christian, about the draft as a whole?
Well, first, thanks for joining me on the Cuts live stream, guys. That was awesome. It was a pleasure having you guys. Can't wait for whatever we have next year. But overall, from a fantasy perspective, the draft wasn't ideal. A lot of just unfriendly landing spots, not a lot of day one or day two capital invested into running backs. Some of the quarterback situations, even like my initial impression of Justin Fields to the Bears was like a little bit of disappointment, but I've since come around on that. Justin Fields is still QB1 forever and always. But overall, I had a great time during the draft this weekend, despite the kind of disappointing fantasy stuff.
I agree. It was fantastic to jump on Christian's stream. I was able to stream every pick of the first 2 rounds, and I'm sure you guys were the same way. I agree with everything. We see the Senior Bowl was so important. I saw something today where it was like 41% of the people drafted were at the Senior Bowl. And so in the COVID year, scouts weren't able to get out to campuses like normal. And so that was the one opportunity where everybody was together. Everybody was under the same microscope. Everybody was in the same conditions, because we saw with Pro Day, not having combine testing, and Pro Day, the numbers are a little bit all over the board. So the Senior Bowl was very important. It was a fun draft, a lot of linemen going. It was not a great fantasy draft, and it just nuked a lot of the hopes on a lot of these guys. You can see it as you're drafting now. Once you get through that second round, there's really a little bit of a tier break there, and I tweeted out today that once you get past that 2.08, good luck, Godspeed. But what about you, Kevin? What did you think?
Well, first, can we all agree that couch was weird as hell? The chair.
Yeah. Did they sanitize that thing in between? Like what was going on there? Just rolling random people through there?
I thought the biggest winner was Goodell. He actually looks competent, and people like him again. He has a weird kind of thing going on now. Where
big assist to Sean McVay there.
Yeah, he did a great job there. I thought the draft was okay. I thought for fantasy it kind of sucked. I think that there are going to be some guys that pop out of this draft, but this just goes to show you, you don't have to hoard picks. That's sometimes not the best way to rebuild teams. Sometimes proven assets, getting guys like Curtis Samuel, some of these other guys maybe earlier before they kind of broke out would be the way to do it. I thought the draft was okay. I was tired after it. I watched a lot of it. I even watched the third day. But then I'm such a junkie that Sunday I watched the replay of this last day. I was sitting there on NFL Network like, what am I doing with my life right now? But as a whole, I thought it was good. I thought my Cowboys sucked, but we don't need to get into that. All right, so we're going to go over some quick quick news that we have, some college football news and notes. And so our first two kind of big ones, I guess you can call it big. I don't know. We're dying for news on this show. Is Jameson Williams, Jeff's guy. He transfers. He left out of Ohio State after that Crowder Room, and he goes to Alabama. So is that a good fit for him, guys? What do we think?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. It's your guy. You can go ahead and talk about him.
I really like Jameson Williams. I think that he's very raw. He needs to work on he's a very explosive player, and we've seen it coming out of high school. He's a highly rated recruit, but obviously with how many players were in that Ohio State receiving room, there was not going to be playing time for him. He just got passed by pretty clearly. And it says something about the depth of Ohio State when you need to go to Alabama to get playing time. And we'll go ahead and take it. I do think that he's going to play a role for Alabama. We talked about their spring game last week, and it did seem they've got the young receivers that certainly Hall is going to be breaking out, and everybody's excited about him. But you look at their receiving core, John Mechie and Sloan, I think it's Sloan, the other receiver, I don't know. I think Williams has a great shot to play at Alabama, and I'm not going to tell a guy he made a bad decision when he's got a great chance to win a national championship and play for a program that's consistently put NFL wide receivers in through the draft.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Christian.
I was just gonna say, I mean, I think the mindset that Alabama always has the most competitive wide receiver room, I think that's been true for a very long time, right? So you've had tons of NFL talent coming through there, but the crazy thing is he's leaving a more talented receiving room to go to a place where he still has the opportunity, like you said, to go snag a championship. And I think that's probably what's on his mind. I think having all of the, you say the primetime slots, the SEC in general gets all the primetime slots, but just having the ability to get some more exposure, I think is what he's seeking. And I ultimately think this is going to help his draft stock, especially if he goes out and performs with Bryce Young.
Yeah, I'll be honest. He got recruited by Josh Gaddis, who is the offensive coordinator for Michigan. So I thought there was some hope that he would transfer to Michigan, who needs a wide receiver, but he didn't, of course. I think he's fine if he can go in there. I think that he's got to compete. Good on him though, not going to a spot that's easier, right? Like we always bag on these guys, like, oh, like why didn't go play for this? Play up to competition, and sometimes maybe it's just not a fit. So I think it's an interesting fit. I don't know if he's going to get eligibility right away. I think with COVID he might, right? So that might be an interesting way, and especially with how then Jeff, you're doing C2C. Would you be comfortable taking him at some point in the drafts right now?
Yeah, I think he projects to the NFL level, so I'd be comfortable. There's going to be a role. There's going to be a spot to take him. I do think he's just physically, he's a gifted receiver. He needs to improve on some of the he needs to catch the ball better, simply put. I know there's been stats out about Justin Fields' drops, and he was a major recipient on that. And watching every snap of his last year, he just had a lot of concentration issues compared to the other wide receivers.
All right, that's fair. All right, let's stop talking about Ohio State. We've had enough. All right, let's go to
we'll talk about them again.
Oklahoma had a recent. It looks like they had some break-in issues, and then it led to some guys kind of transferring. Seth McGowan, their running backs there. Eric Gray transferred from Tennessee. Seth's now there. He kind of got in trouble with the law. It looks like he may transfer. What is your opinion of this, Christian? What do you think about him?
Well, I just drafted him, and I was kind of hoping that he would stick it out and stay in that program because that would kind of indicate to me that he didn't do it. Obviously, there's still just allegations. No one's been arrested. It's reported that he pistol whipped somebody. Not ideal for my C2C team that now has him. However, he's a very talented running back. I mean, ultimately, like if he goes and he turns his life around a little bit, we know that the NFL is going to give him a shot no matter what, because I mean, Josh Ball got drafted to your Cowboys this week. So, and Rashad Weaver got drafted too to the Titans. So he still projects fairly well as long as he lands in a program where he gets the opportunity.
Yeah.
I'm not touching those legal draft landing spots. But no, and I mean the story here is pretty clear. Wheels up on Eric Gray. You know, he's gathering a lot of buzz. Him in that offense, he's going to post massive numbers, and he's going to go through. It speaks to the fun and challenge of drafting in a C2C league where, you know, your guy transfers 6 hours later compared to what you're used to with these NFL drafts. And, you know, things are a little bit more stable at that level. So he's a talented guy. If he can put the legal issues behind him, lands in a good landing spot, certainly you're going to be fine there where you got him. We're late enough that in that draft that we're really just mining for talent and hoping them find guys that go up to the next level.
Yeah, and to your point about how fun it is with C2C, we're in one right now, like the 26th round, and some guy just drafted a kid that got a DUI like 2 days ago, and after he drafted him, everybody was just like blasting him, like, hey, did you know? Because we didn't know, and it's crazy out here. The one thing about Seth, he was getting recruited by Georgia, Alabama, Arizona State, and Arkansas pretty hard. So you could look at maybe those teams. Probably Arizona State would be an interesting fit there in that offense. So we'll go from there. Now, what we're going to kind of talk about now is we're going to kind of transition our way into the spring games. So we are going to look at the spring games. Spring football's playing there. We're going to talk about Christian's favorite quarterback, Bo Nix. So he's going to give us kind of a rundown with these Auburn guys over here. So, Christian, why don't you go ahead and give us a shutdown for what do you think Bo Nix can be? What do you think he has any chance next year? Where do we see this?
Man, no. I'm fully out on Bo Nix. The good thing is they have Tank Bigsby, who's probably, like, if I had to guess, if I had to project it out, he's one of the best running backs in college football right now. He's just very young, and he's maybe not as on. I mean, he's still on everyone's radar, but like I think you can make a case for Tank Bigsby going number one overall in these C2C drafts. The problem is his quarterback is Bo Nix, who in the spring game, he did go 12 for 20 for 112 yards and a touchdown. I don't care. And then Grant Loy, 4 for 12, 29 yards. Demetrius Davis, 2 for 3 for 48 yards. Just not a ton that popped to me. Jeff, what did you think?
Bo Nix is a Northwestern quarterback. That's like he is not. I told you guys that he is not an SEC quarterback. He reminds me of Mike Kafka. You know, he's a guy that he just runs around. He's a bigger guy that maybe he finds his way to the very end of an NFL bench, but he scrambles around every single play. He's scrambling around, but this offense is clearly going to roll through Tank Bigsby. I did run some numbers last night on Brian Harrison, where his offense at Boise State usually landed, and it usually does lean more passing heavy. And with the SEC, the trends that we're seeing there, the high scoring games, if they want to be any good, they're going to need Bo Nix, but I don't think they're going to be any good in his first year. I think it's going to be a real struggle. And I almost wonder it's going to get awkward there because his dad being Patrick Nix and having those ties, whereas he might have 3 more years left at Auburn, given the rules. And that might be a JT Barrett situation where he finds himself at the top of all the records lists and everybody's saying, how's this guy at the top of the records? But at the same time, Auburn, if they want to move forward as a program, they need to recruit somebody better and they need to kind of move away from that. So I do think that there's going to be, it's just setting up for an awkward situation. And I don't project him to the NFL level beyond maybe a camp arm, but not a fan.
Everybody take a shot, by the way. Just one shot.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. JT Barrett. Come on. I forgot he even played at Ohio State. Now, I would agree, Bo Nix, he was getting drafted. I saw him going first rounds last year in Devy drafts. So that's the risk that you have when you're talking about Devy players and where you're at. I do like Demetrius Davis. So that's the freshman they brought in. He's a dual threat kid. He's not probably going to be an NFL guy, but he's a guy that you can take a shot on late in your rounds, especially if you're drafting, if you're in C2C leagues, because I think that Nick's going to have a short leash, especially for Harsin, the new coach. You could see him maybe getting some play and see him get in there, but they're reloading that team. They're going to need to lean on Bigsby really bad. So Christian's out on Bo Nix, but he did go 12 for 20, 112 yards. So we got to give him a shout out. That was a great spring game, Nix. All right, now we're going to shift over to Ole Miss quarterback room, and Jeff's going to hurt my feelings because I really like this kid, Matt Corral. What was our opinion of the spring game over there at Ole Miss?
Matt Corral played well. I think Matt Corral is a good quarterback. He showed good placement. He was 12 for 19, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jaquise Walker was the guy that really stood out in my mind. He's a physical running back coming in. He scored 2 touchdowns, 11 carries, 75 yards. Braylon Sanders played well, 4 catches, 135 yards, and a touchdown. I like Corral. So I am a fan of his. maybe my comp didn't exactly make you think that, but he reminded me of it'll put right in people's minds. He reminds me of Gardner Minshew, where he's able to run around. We saw he ran for 500 some yards last year in that Lane Kiffin offense. He's going to smash. He's going to put up massive numbers. But I'd love to hear your thoughts, Kevin.
I love the kid. I just think that he's fun to watch. He makes the biggest hits from when I watch him. He can get really off his throws really easy sometimes. When he plays within the system, he looks really good. So when he kind of makes those reads, very good. When he starts doing shit on his own, that's when things kind of go off the rails a little bit, and he has those interception games that we saw. But if you take away his one game where he threw 6 interceptions, which is not good, like let's put that out of the way. Those other games, he does show that kind of characteristics, and I feel like the QB class of this class isn't that high, right? We have 2 guys that we're pretty sure about, and then maybe 3, and then we get to these guys, okay, who can make you take that next step? He doesn't really remind me of Zach Wilson, but he might be that guy that takes that step. He's going to score a ton of points in C2C leagues. I'm interested kind of, and we'll let Christian talk about Corral, but I'm not an Ely guy. Jerry Ely from Ole Miss, the running back there, he's like 5'8" baseball player. I'm not really him. So I'm interested to see what your guys' takes are with him too. But what do you think about Corral, Christian?
I like Corral a bit. So I did release my top 5 this week. He did not make it, but that's mainly because of like what you said. When he starts to do things on his own, the off platform work, it's only okay. And I think he tends to, when he makes a mistake, it's like it eats at him, and then that's automatically a bad game the rest of the game. And that's not something that you can really have at the next level because, to be honest, like he's going to have a ton of bad games. I don't think he will in this offense this year, though. So I can get behind that, like Zach Wilson rise. I could definitely see the NFL loving this kid because, I mean, he's going to put up numbers. Is it crazy to think that he's a Heisman candidate?
No,
I think that conference is wide open, as far as much wide open as we've seen. But it does kind of feel like every single time we're in a position where we think that conference is wide open, Nick Saban just rolls in and goes 12-0, and maybe never mind. But I do expect a lot of shootouts, and I think that there's the Heisman case is as wide open as it's been coming into a season, especially moving Trevor Lawrence out of there as we've had in years.
And Lane Kiffin is an amazing coach.
Yes, absolutely.
That dude can cook. I love Lane Kiffin, so I'm on the Lane Kiffin train. So I think if anybody can develop them and what he's done with quarterbacks in the past, I love what he has. But Lane Kiffin also likes to just huck it. And so he kind of feeds into Corral's kind of weaknesses, right? Like, oh yeah, let's just go out here and throw this ball 40 times against Alabama. It'll be all right. It's like, well, that's not even going to be success. Braylon Sanders for Ole Miss, he had 4 catches, 135 yards, and a touchdown. I like him. He seems like someone that could be taking a rise there, especially in those leagues. Jeff, do you have any opinion on Ely? Are you as high on Ely? I traded Ely for Darrell Henderson in the league last year that I was competing in. I thought that was a good trade at the time. I still think that it's valuable. I don't think Ely has an NFL shot. Do you?
No. I really liked Walker too, from what he showed in the spring game. I just think he's much more more projectable the next level than Ely. He's much more physical. We saw him take the corner and score a touchdown. So I think that I'd rather have him over Ely, and I think he's way later in drafts right now.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, well, hey, I'm going to talk about our favorite quarterback, and that's USC quarterback Kedon Slovis. So we are looking at their spring game. In the spring game, Slovis was 8 for 12, 128 yards and 0 touchdowns. His backup, the next guy that's coming up, is Jackson Dart. He had 7 for 13, 99 yards and a touchdown. Drake London, 7 receptions, 139 yards. He looks amazing. The running back situation there is still a mess. Keontae Ingram, Carr, all those type of guys in there. Let's talk about Slovis. So for me, we've all kind of have a consensus on this show. I think Slovis is higher on people's radars than we are on our list. Slovis, was my QB1 going into last year, and I think he was a lot of guys QB1 going into last year, and then he didn't look very good. Whether or not it was the arm, whether it was his decision-making, he's not very athletic. He can keep his eyes downfield when he gets pressured. I actually like him, his pocket presence, but I just worry about his athletic ability coming over. The scheme did not fit him very well. He's not in my top 5, and we've kind of all have that consensus that he's not in our top 5. We're kind of getting shit on right now about him not being in our top 5. We're getting subtweeted, all this kind of stuff. And Christian, I thought, put it perfectly when we were talking about him. So, Christian, you put kind of your assessment on him. What do you think? What do you look at as Slovis?
Well, so there's a ton of things with Slovis. So I do want to say, like, I don't want to kill the kid. The thing that he does very well is he has really, really good field vision. He goes through his progressions really well, and that's great. That's awesome. Jake Fromm did that very well as well, and they just don't have NFL arm talent. Like, I look at Slovis's arm and I say that is no more than a replacement level arm. You can't win in today's NFL with, I say that, and like Joe Burrow has a pretty weak arm too, right? But what you see out of Joe Burrow and what you saw in that crazy 2019 LSU season was amazing placement and pinpoint, very, very quick decisions. Slovis in 2020, and I know people say, go watch the 2019 tape. Well, I have, and the thing is his arm is still not strong enough, in my opinion, to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And, I hope he goes out there and I hope he proves us wrong. But I also wouldn't be shocked if Jackson Dart ends up starting some games in 2021. Slovis, especially if he continues what he did in 2020, it's rough. He's not going to be top 10 for me. So cancel us now.
He doesn't have any tools that erases anything. So he doesn't have athleticism, so he doesn't bring that. You've harped on the arm talent, and you're exactly right. So what does he bring into the next level that's going to, we saw with Josh Allen the ability to erase errors because his arm is so strong that he can account for late reads, whereas Slovis just doesn't have that. And we've seen these guys in college. Yeah, if you watch a lot of college football, I go back to, it kind of reminded me of Joey Harrington a little bit, where he kind of is able to scramble around. He's not quite there. Whereas USC's prime position, their wide receivers are phenomenal. And so I do think it might be the type of thing where there's going to be big arguments over him because those wide receivers are so good that they're going to erase a lot of errors and allow for a large margin. Whereas he's just not, I don't see it at the next level. And I agree. Jackson Dart, when he played just a little bit, he popped off when I watched the spring game. It was, who's that? That's Dart. Yeah, of course. So that, and then Brew McCoy, I got subtweeted for taking him, but I don't care. He's going to be right there with Drake London, and these wide receivers are going to be great. Keontae Ingram at running back, he's going to be great. Pac-12 after dark is going to be very entertaining this year. I don't know that anybody's going to push for a national level, but it is going to be fun watching these games.
Yeah, no, and being in California, my sources over here, I don't have any sources, but I did read some things, okay, from this area where they said when Jackson Dart got on the field, it was something different. And people got a little hyped. The team felt like, hey, this guy is kind of something different that we haven't seen in a while. Slovis got out there. It's fine, but it's not like something that brings something new to the offense. So that concerns me when you talk about a true freshman coming in, and Slovis has been there for 3 years. And so I think we just need to cool it with the Slovis love a little bit, some people out there. I think, and then stop overdrafting him. I saw him go at the 111 in the league. That's disgusting. I was forced to take him with a co-owner in like the end of the fourth, beginning of the fifth. I will take that because at a certain point it's pretty good value, but I still didn't want to do it. Like, I did not want to do it. I was forced to. So I took him, but I think that people are overdrafting him too much for what he used to be rather than that. Everybody says, well, he had here to show that, yeah, that was 2 years ago. Like, it's time to get over that now. What did he do last year? All right, we'll stop harping on that a little bit. We're going to go over our top 5 2022 quarterback rankings, and we're going to give our Devy Royale kind of consensus here. Guys that we think where we're at and where we're talking about with some highlights that we have for you. So our number one, and we say we have a consensus, but we really don't. We have after the first 3, we differ. But number one, we're going to go with the North Carolina man himself, Christian. What do you see in Sam Howell?
I see an NFL quarterback. I see a guy who was productive from the time he stepped foot on a college football field. I see a guy with great mechanics. I see a guy who sometimes struggles to make quick decisions. I will say that. Like, he's a little more flawed than obviously the guys in the 2020 class, or 2021 class, I mean. But I do think that, we see it in this highlight, and I'm sorry if you guys are audio only. I just get so excited watching Sam Howell. His deep ball is just phenomenal. He makes some throws that literally are pretty jaw-dropping. So it just makes you say, wow. He's my favorite quarterback, and he may not end up finishing as my one when the process is all said and done, just because we did see a ton of talent leave. but he's my favorite. He's so fun to watch.
My bad for the guys seeing this visually. I can't do graphics. No, I like him. What do you think about him, Jeff?
He's up there. I don't know. He's going to be. It's going to be an argument all year. I have a feeling. It's just my concern on him is the replacing the weapons that he loses versus the other guy that we're going to talk about, Spencer Rattler, being in the Lincoln Riley system, having the Lincoln Riley blessing, being in the discussion for the college football playoff, posting the numbers. I think it's going to be the type of thing where field tape watchers are going to be all over Howell. And we're setting up for the narrative street to be on Rattler. Obviously, I took him before Howell in this draft. I just think that there's going to be a time where the value on Rattler is higher than Howell. And maybe I made a mistake there, but we'll see how that plays out. Howell's a very special quarterback, and I think he's likely to be the number one pick in the draft.
Yeah, he's my one, but he's my one because this is a weird talented quarterback class. It's pretty down. Unless some guys take that next step for us, I would argue, where would you put, I'm going to put you on the spot. We didn't ask this, but what the hell? Where would you put Hal in this class, Christian? Where would you put him at? The one that we just had.
I tweeted this. It would have gone Fields, Lawrence, either Lance or Hal. So he would have, Fields, Lawrence, Lance, Hal. So he would have been QB4.
That makes sense. And now we're talking about QB1 next year. So teams that need a quarterback next year, it's going to be an interesting kind of dynamic where you're going to see some of these other guys like Carr and the other guys bounce around, I think, and find landing spots because I don't know if they have the talent that we have here. Our second guy, our consensus guy, is Spencer Rattler. So Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma. Since Jeff has an affinity for him, he drafts him before Hal. We can start with Jeff. Jeff, what do you see with Spencer?
The Lincoln Riley system, the Lincoln Riley.
Oh, man, we don't want to see that. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you don't want to see me. No, I do think that there are certainly concerns. It looked like last year he was shook. He lost his confidence. He stopped kind of going downfield a little bit, but I think he kind of got it back towards the end of the year. We saw a great performance against Florida. I just have a feeling that Oklahoma is going to be in the conversation for the college football playoff. He's going to be posting massive numbers, and I think that there's going to be a real portion of the season where he's the number one quarterback. And, it's the type of thing where maybe if you're not playing with Christian in your league, who's certainly not going to give up Sam Howell, but if you take Rattler, there's going to be a time where you're able to trade Rattler for Howell plus. And then maybe it will flip again by the draft. But I think next January, we're going to see a hot debate between the two quarterbacks, and they're both very talented. I think that they're going to both go right at the top of the draft where we stand right now.
No, I think that's fair. When I scouted these guys and I was kind of looking at him, I love his arm strength. Like, I think that he does separate him a little bit. I like his ability to kind of make plays off script, and he can do that. Now, I think one thing that we do, I think too easily with these guys is we think like Rattler can like really run. Like we think that he's going to be that guy. He's not going to be that guy. He wasn't that guy in high school. Like he was not very fast. He can kind of move around. He's pretty good there. I put on one of my things. He makes unconventional throws, and he can make those throws. And I think that kind of sets him apart as well. He's had the okay ball placement. It's okay some days. But I know, Christian, you were talking about kind of his spring game, like what you saw from him. There's some things you didn't like, right?
Yeah. So, and number one, like I don't know if we're gonna credit this to he just really didn't want to be out there and didn't really care about it, or if his development just isn't advancing the way we expect it to. But his footwork was off, and that led to a ton of airmailed throws and stuff like that. Like that's the concerning part to me. And it was most of his work within the pocket. So I know how exciting he is when he gets outside the pocket, but it's kind of the same thing that I had a problem with Zach Wilson with, and that was just he wants to get out of the pocket. Who knows like what he's going to be if he's forced to stay in the pocket. Mm-hmm. And to your point, he's not a great athlete, but he's passable, and when he's outside the pocket, he can make crazy plays. So I love him. He's my 2. It's just some concerning things.
I think Zach Wilson's a really good comp, and his ability to throw at different arm angles and off platforms, I think teams are going to fall in love with that, just like they did with Zach Wilson.
for sure.
Yeah, no, I think so too. All right, let's go to our number 3. And this is a consensus for us. Our top 3 are pretty set, not in stone, but they're set right now to where we think this is how it's going to work. And that's Nevada quarterback Carson Strong. And this is a young kid that we've been watching for a while. I wrote about him last summer, and I said, hey, keep an eye on because this kid is big, massive. He had a really good pedigree in high school. I think he threw for almost 12,000 yards out here in California. So he come back from injury. So Carson Strong. Go ahead, Christian. What do you see here?
Oh man. From the moment I started watching Carson Strong, this is awful. I hate this. From the moment I watched Carson Strong, I said, holy crap, like the NFL is going to love this dude. His pocket awareness, very, very good. His ball placement, like if you're watching right now, you see like some of the crazy deep throws he can make, and he has a lot of good touch on it. He really understands kind of what angle to get throws at. Big arm, but the thing that really impresses me about Carson Strong is his willingness to just take whatever hit is coming his way and just yeet the ball downfield, and it's fairly accurate most of the time. He's one of my most fun watches, and if you guys haven't, go watch his bowl game, because that's where that wasn't the first time I watched him, but that's where I was like, okay, this kid is legit, probably a first-round pick if I had to guess.
Yeah, to me, it's arm strength, right? Like I when you see that zip, I dare everybody to go do this. Go watch Carson Strong and then go watch Keaton Slovis. Just watch them both side by side. And if you watch them both and say, yeah, Slovis isn't ranked over him, I don't know what to tell you, just based on that arm talent that he has and his ball placement, which is actually pretty good, and his ability to kind of make those off-platform throws too. He can do it, and he's legit. He's not going to be a burner, but he's that guy, right? Wouldn't you say that, Jeff?
Absolutely. So watching that clip and watching him before, being out in the West, I'm going to hit you with the throwback reference, a little bit of Ryan Leaf. I don't know if you're old.
It doesn't help our
in a good college Ryan Leaf.
Oh, okay.
So if you watch college Ryan Leaf at Washington State, he was a big prototypical. There's a reason why he went number 2 in the draft, and there was a reason why everybody was talking him up as a generational talent, just right next to Peyton Manning. And if he had a good head on his shoulders, he would have hit it. But Carson Strong reminds me of him a lot. The physicality, the willingness to take hits, but the placement and accuracy downfield is just fantastic.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think those are your 3 right now, especially. And he's going to have a shot. They could go to the New York Six Bowl, the Mountain West Conference. Nobody knows what that is except for me, because I'm the only one that goes to those games. You'll see him there. He's gonna do well in that talent there. They have a great offense. Cole Turner, Dubs, all those guys over there. They're legit. Like, they're a legit New York Six team. If he gets them there, then we're talking about some real competition here where he can compete maybe, and someone's going to fall in love with him. We've seen these guys fall in love. Hope they're not Ryan Leaf for the sake of the integrity of the show. For
college Ryan Leaf is a good player. There's a reason why he went 2nd in the draft.
I know.
Watch college Ryan Leaf.
I was like 6, Jeff. I don't know what to tell you.
I know.
Like, I can't.
I fell in love with him, and my heart was burnt, and I still won't recover.
All right, let's go to number 4. This is where we're going to all kind of differ, I think. Where I know it says consensus, but you should know by now we don't really do that. Jeff? Who is your 4-ish?
Jaden Daniels, just his physical gifts. We're playing fantasy football. We're trying to score points. He's the 6'3" guy who's elusive and physical, able to run downfield, able to make plays. He's not Lamar Jackson, but I just think that he's going to fall in the end of the first round. I just have a feeling, and he's going to be up there in fantasy drafts.
That's fair. I'll go because he's my 5th-ish. So when I'm looking at him, he's about my 5. I know that Christian, he's like his 150th. So we're not going to make him talk about him. For me, the thing about Jaden is he's dual threat, right? And so fantasy-wise, I think that kind of elevates him. He can drive the ball downfield, and I think he actually reads defenses really well. I think he had 3 interceptions the first year. I think he only has 3 career interceptions at all. So he does a pretty good job of keeping care of the ball. He did a great his freshman year. Arizona State last year got just destroyed with COVID. They had to play games on Sunday. They were all out of the place. So I can't use last year in terms of like his production, but he's got to put on some size. He's only 185 pounds, and I think the strength and the size worries me, kind of like Tutu, right? Okay, when you're looking at these guys, they're like, hey, who are these guys and what can they do? I like Jaden. I think he's there, but we could talk to Christian about why he's a little lower for you. Why is he a little lower for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on it a little bit, just some of the size. I think his footwork within the pocket is a little iffy as well. I think when he gets outside the pocket, obviously he's a very dynamic playmaker. But, I could probably point to 2 or 3 guys in this class that can probably I don't know that they can keep up with him speed-wise, but they can keep up with him as like an actual running quarterback, but they also throw the ball better. And that's kind of why I'm landing. He's 9 for me. So I guess 160th or whatever you said is pretty close. But I like him. I think he could take the biggest leap here. I just need to see a little more.
Who do you like it for then? Like, who is your 4-ish?
Malik Willis. So pretty similar player at Liberty. We probably won't touch on him, but Malik is fun. Malik, I think, has a stronger arm than Jaden. And while his placement is like only okay sometimes, I think ultimately you're going to see that next leap because he's already got Quincy Avery with him. So Quincy Avery's already working with him, I believe, in the offseason and stuff. So that's always a good sign because we just saw Quincy Avery's pretty much like his project and Trey Lance go 3rd overall. I think we'll see a similar leap from Malik this year. That's fair. And when we're looking at quarterbacks, I know there's some people out here like Jeff. Do you see Tanner Morgan at all? I don't think he's a candidate.
No, is people talking about him?
All right. So here's the thing, guys. I loved Tanner Morgan after his 2019 season. I did.
When he was throwing to NFL wide receivers?
Yeah. And then
in the Big Ten?
Yeah.
West?
Yeah. However, like he had good footwork. He had, a decent amount of zip on his balls. For whatever reason, 2020 was not his year. I hope he bounces back, but no higher than like the 6th or 7th round. Yeah.
I don't know there. I think Willis makes an interesting case. I didn't include his video because I didn't have running backs on my list. I forgot, but I think that he does have an arm. Like he does have that. He plays at Liberty. I don't know where he's gonna go. He's gonna be one of those kids that is just dynamic, and he's also gonna be one of those guys that are like they're gonna ask him to switch positions. Everybody's gonna get mad, and it's just gonna be one of those like big old blow ups. But Jeff, what do you think of Willis?
He's my quarterback 6. He's right there on the cusp.
Right there.
It goes right. It kind of goes back to the Slovis conversation where what are we doing here? We're shooting for upside. We're guessing a year out. So if you've got all these explosive quarterbacks in this draft, what are you doing taking this guy that we know is limited physically and probably limited arm strength and thinking that he's going to be projecting towards the top half of the draft? I'm just out. But no, I really like Willis. He's got a great opportunity. He's going to go. Liberty's going to put up fantastic numbers. They throw the ball all over the field. We saw it's the dude from Baylor, isn't it? Is their coach?
Oh yeah, isn't it Art Browse?
I think it's Bryles is their coach.
Yeah.
So yeah,
he's back from hell. Yeah, he's back.
Yeah, back from the hospital bed. He's not going to be coaching from the hospital bed anytime soon, I don't think. But he's there at Liberty. So yeah, Willis, fantastic. He's my 6th guy. The guy that I do like a little bit more than him, it's just he's captured my heart being here in Ohio. Seeing Desmond Ridder the last couple of years, seeing him. I think he's been battle tested in high pressure games in Cincinnati. He also brings that athleticism. He brings a little bit more of a prototype NFL size, a 6'4" guy. And I don't know. I just like him.
No, I think that's fair. Christian likes him too, right?
I do. He's my 7. I have it right here. Yeah, 7. One thing with the 2022 class, we're really going to be able to find out who can identify like what makes a good quarterback because there's so many guys just very, very tool based. And we're going to really see who can identify those guys. Ultimately, like we're probably going to see it on the field in 2021. I think some of these guys are going to fade to the back and other guys are going to take steps forward, but it's going to be interesting. I'm very excited.
All right. Well, I think we talked about 7 quarterbacks. I'm not 100% sure, but we got 5 in there. Is there anybody that you want to touch on before we move on?
Well, will we get fired if we don't talk about JT Daniels?
Probably.
He's okay. Like I want to see more from him. My guy's Corral, so just to kind of give everybody kind of heads up, he's my 4. Jaden Daniels is my 5. But JT Daniels, I think that he could rise up, right? I think he has the arm talent and stuff. I need to see what he can do after that injury. So I want to see if he can be in that system for 2 years. He's not going to have a ton of wide receivers to throw to. The talent after Pickens went down. So what do you guys think of Daniels real quick?
It reminds me of the old Alabama quarterbacks that they kind of moved away from. We see Kirby Smart coming over. It feels like he took the Alabama offense and then Nick Saban just upgraded everything. And so it's just in that line of quarterbacks that we've seen kind of, and they'll AJ McCarron types where they make NFL rosters and they hang around, but I don't think he's an NFL starter.
I think he has the tools to become that. I just don't see it. The decision making and the placement are just not there for me. I hope he takes a step forward because then people will tell me I'm stupid. They already do. So at C. Williams NFL, tell me. See, he didn't make my top 5.
Tell me I'm stupid at C. Williams NFL.
All right, let's move on. Jeff, why don't you get us into our next part of the show? We just went through our top 5. Now we're going to be doing our sportsbook rundown, which is very bare, so bear with us here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen the casino theme with the show. The show is broken into 3 different games. The winner of each game is awarded a poker chip. Whoever finishes the show with the most chips receives the turnover chain of immunity. Somehow Christian didn't win any games last week, but he still has the chain. While the losers must grab from the McDonald's Happy Meal box of death. Again, I cannot stress enough that this has no relation to Jeremy Pruitt's Tennessee program, but we are certainly open to sponsorships, and we do take McDonald's bags for the money, so we're not above that at all. Again, no relation to Jeremy Pruitt. But anyways, missed the pick, and we're going to dole out some punishments. We need to talk to Twitter about some punishments because I am 2 in the hole. Kevin's 1 in the hole, so we need to figure out some fun things that we can do to kind of pay some of these things off. But we're going to start out with Christian running through the sports book.
Yeah, really quickly before we start, if you're watching right now, drop some punishment ideas in the comments. We'll take a look at those. But let's get into the sportsbook rundown. Last week, Jeff won the over-under draft lines he got 7 correct. Kevin got 6 and I got 5. Was not a great start for me. This week, we're diving into our reactions for each result, and then we're going to pick the FCS semifinal matchups. So first on the docket was the Jamar Chase over underline of 5.5. This is one that Jeff and myself got correct. Kevin, how are you feeling about that?
I'm fine with it. I just wanted someone to protect Joe Burrow's knee and just for him to get Penny Sewell. I thought they did okay in the draft. I mean, I think they did okay. I just thought they were going to go lineman. I hate to pick though. I love Jamar Chase. I think that's a great offense to get into. I just hope that Burrow can stand upright. They have a built-in offensive line. I did someone say that I think PFF dropped the best offensive line improvements this year was Cincinnati. I don't know if I agree with that, but I think that they'll be all right. So I missed it, but I should have went under, but I was trying to be different.
Yeah. Jeff, any parting thoughts on Jamar Chase on the Bengals?
Okay. No, I thought that was where it is going to land. The Burrow connection, they run more 3 wide receiver sets than any team in the league. They took Jackson Carman. I don't know. That feels like a Bengals pick where they take the big school tackle in the 2nd round. But Chase is a special player. We've seen it throughout. We see it in our fantasy drafts too. So take him in the top 6.
Jackson Carman got a D- when we did our grades on my other show because that's an awful pick. All right. Next, Kyle Pitts over under. We all said under 5.5, so we were all correct. Good landing spot. Everyone okay with this?
Yeah, fantastic landing spot. I think that is ideal. I'm excited about what they're going to do. I know they announced that they're not going to pick up Hayden Hurst 5th-year option, but I hope that they run a lot of 2 tight ends and they're able to break Pitts free from the line, be able to treat him as that 3rd wide receiver. And I think if they do that with Matt Ryan at quarterback, he's just going to smash.
Yeah. And then we're not going to talk about all these ones, guys, but I do want to touch on the Rashad Bateman and Kadarius Toney kerfuffle that Jeff was really adamant about. I think you got one right, Jeff, with the Kadarius Toney over under 31.5. Kevin, you went with the over on the Kadarius Toney? You trusted the NFL?
I'm a moron. I just didn't think Toney was going to get that draft capital, but I was wrong. I was 100% wrong. I will admit it.
Yeah, well, he shouldn't have. I think we all know that. What a weird Dave Gettleman draft, by the way. Yeah. Just the trade back that threw me for a loop, for sure. And then lastly, we'll talk about Rashad Bateman over under 27.5. Kevin, you're the only one that got that one right. Good job.
That's right. Yeah, no, I figured I'd take that one. What are your opinion of Tony? Let's get into Tony, because I saw Giants Twitter's going crazy right now on people. They're yelling at people out there.
They are. Jeff, why don't you take this one first?
I like the trade back. I look at it. I don't know. I've talked to my Giants fans, and I look at it, and if they would have traded back and took Ojulari and then take Tony in the second round, I feel like people wouldn't have been quite so bent out of shape. I do think that Tony brings a different skill set than they don't have in that wide receiver room. And if they're able to creatively use him, the problem is Jason Garrett's their offense coordinator, and Jason Garrett's not going to be able to creatively use him. So you're using a first round pick on a guy that, doesn't have the imagination to be able to unlock him. So that's not great. But, picking up a first round pick next year, which, if everything falls wrong for the Bears, which very well could, that could be a very high pick next year. And you still get Tony and you get Ojulari in the second round, who I think a lot of people thought he'd be a first round pick. I think the Giants did fine in the draft, but fine.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they had a good draft just because of the capital that they picked up. The trade back to get like the fourth option in your offense just doesn't make sense. But what they're doing is they're giving Daniel Jones absolutely no excuse. Daniel Jones, we are going to find out if he is the starting quarterback after his rookie contract. There's no more offensive line questions. There's no more weapon questions. It's Daniel Jones. Are you good or not? Highly not, but we'll see. We'll see.
I just don't get – I don't know. I think that it makes okay sense if they're going to use him in different ways. So if they move him around. But like to Jeff's point, as a Cowboys fan, I watched Jason Garrett coach my team for a very long time, and I watched him as the offensive coordinator. He's unimaginative. He does the same damn plays every time. He every 1st and 10, he runs a dive. Every 2nd and 7, they're going to look for a dump off to the tight end over the middle, and then they don't even use Ingram right. So they couldn't even use Ingram right. Now you're expecting to use Tony right? I think I just don't necessarily understand it. I get it from an NFL perspective point of view, like the personnel and stuff. But do you guys buy that these are other guys? Like that's what Judge was saying on an interview. Like, oh, well, a bunch of coaches told me that was my guy in the first. We were going to get him. Like, I think Urban and those guys. You guys buy that?
Knowing Urban Meyer's probably telling him that to make him feel better, to mess with his mind a little bit. But Urban loves to do little things like that. So I don't know. I think somebody would take him. I mean, around there.
I think it would have been Urban. Imagine if the Giants don't take Tony, Urban takes Kadarius Toney, and then the freak out is not about James Robinson, it's about Laviska Shenault.
Yeah.
And
it should kind of be about Laviska Shenault already, but it's what it is.
Fair enough. Yep. All right. Let's go ahead and pick these FCS semifinal matchups. So we're going to go with winner and total points. Winner probably just as an aside. South Dakota State versus Delaware is the first matchup. Kevin, total points. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and pick South Dakota State, and I'm going to say total points is going to be a little lower. So I'm going to say around 50, let's say 48.
Okay.
I will take South Dakota State, and I will say 59.
Okay, 59.
Like
and I watched a couple of these games. I don't remember who though. I know I watched the Sam Houston game. I'll take Delaware just to be fun, and I will say 64. 64.
Wow.
Yeah, it's going to be a high-scoring game. It's FCS. We're excited. We're excited. All right, and then the second game on the docket is James Madison versus Sam Houston. Total points. Jeff, you first this time.
James Madison in total points, 53.
Okay.
Yeah, I've decided to become a Sam Houston fan. So I'm going with my boy Sam Houston, and I'm going 60. I'm going a high-scoring game here. I think these two teams are going to be a shootout. So give me my Sam Houston.
Does anybody know anything about James Madison or Sam Houston? Were they good guys, or did they?
Sam Houston was a person. That's what you're telling me right now? No way.
Well, I assume. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you
name the school? This name
talking to a history teacher right now. This hurts. These both were good guys. Well, actually, I don't know anymore.
Well, I thought you'd enlighten us.
People getting canceled now for these history guys. So I don't know. Like in my heart, they're good guys. What I've learned about them.
Okay. I am taking Sam Houston simply because I watched Sam Houston's quarterback just make a dime of a throw to clinch the win last week. Just a great like NFL level throw. He's not going to the NFL, no chance. But Sam Houston, 59 total points. I'm going with the Price is Right kind of idea here.
That's smart. All right. Well, we're going to go over to our next segment, which is prospect poker. And this one's a little different this time. So we're going to be looking at kind of landing spots. So the rules are very simple here. We're going to play poker, toss 3 cards in the river. Each holds 2. Before we reveal our card, we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite landing spots we saw on the draft weekend. So let's go through. So we're going to go with our favorite landing spots first.
So we're going to flip up. We're going to start with a queen. Ooh, queen of diamonds, a 4 of hearts, not getting much there, and then a 5 of clubs. And so we're going to flip them out here. Christian, I believe you're first.
I sure am. So one of my favorite landing spots is Javonte Williams. I tweeted out about Javonte Williams and how I think that he is going to take over this backfield very, very quickly. He was my RB1, and he's going to a situation in which they paid Melvin Gordon, certainly, absolutely. The deal ends this year, and they were willing to give Phillip Lindsay the ball quite a bit before he got hurt last year. When you start to factor in the fact that Javonte Williams is much, much better than Phillip Lindsay, and he profiles as a workhorse type of guy where Phillip Lindsay did not. I think Javonte Williams has a chance to be a high-end RB2 this year, and it's just going to be really, really fun to watch this offense, provided that Teddy Bridgewater or Drew Lock are like anything whatsoever, or Aaron Rodgers. That'd be fun.
All right, Christian's flip, a 2 of clubs. Not getting much there. All right, my guy, my champion of my heart, even though he tore up my Buckeyes, Rondale Moore, landing in Arizona. I absolutely love this landing spot. The backfield is certainly unsettled, but Cliff Kingsbury is showing himself to be a very creative coach. They've desperately needed a second wide receiver in that offense next to DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sorry, Christian Kirk Truthers, it's not going to be you. I'm sorry, Andy Isabella Truthers, it's not going to be you. And I'm sorry, all those Cincinnati fans that are all heartbroken about A.J. Green, it's not going to be him. It's going to be Rondale Moore. And I just took him in our charity dad's league that I'm in with Kevin. Kevin's drafting right next to me. I swooped in and I took him right in like the 10th round. And so he's my guy, Rondale Moore, champion of my heart. And I get a ace of diamonds. Oh, that's a good high card, but not matching anything.
Yeah, so when I'm looking at my favorite spot, and it's just Jalen Waddle to me. I thought that I'm a Waddle guy, though, so I know some people out there weren't. I think he went to a good spot where he's going to eat up a lot of targets. I did have someone argue with me that Devontae Parker was better. You are an idiot. Everybody else out there, Waddle's going to have he has a good spot. He worked well with Tua, and Tua had some of his best numbers at Alabama with Waddle. So when he targeted Waddle and he had those kind of things, he looked great with Waddle out there. I think Waddle's going to have one of the top years of the rookie class. I don't know where he's going to be at, but I would rather, based on this spot, I would rather go with Waddle than Devonta Smith all day in rookie drafts, and that's just my opinion. I think this was a good spot for him.
All right, Kevin's flipping a 2 of diamonds. So
Great.
We got some 2s on the board and an ace.
All right, I'll start talking about my least favorite prospect landing spot, and that was Elijah Moore. So I know everyone's pretty excited about Elijah Moore going to be that guy with Zach Wilson. But here's the thing, guys. I don't think Jamison Crowder's going anywhere. So you're now waiting on a guy, and we've seen what can happen if a guy has to wait an entire year for solid playing time and solid production. Yeah. Obviously, like the receiver breakouts don't always happen in year one. I get that, but Elijah Moore definitely doesn't have a very clear path to a ton of targets. I also just don't know what this offense is going to look like. I don't know if they use him in like a gadget role, but I don't like that either. So I just wasn't – I wish he went somewhere else.
All right, Christian's flip. Oh, the king of clubs.
Doesn't do anything.
Doesn't do anything. So my guy that I am disappointed about where he landed was Terrace Marshall Jr. We saw him coming up. Tennessee was on the clock. Kansas City was on the clock, and we were really excited about those landing spots. He lands in Carolina. I'm not sold on Sam Darnold being able to elevate any wide receivers beyond DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson there in Carolina. I don't know how he fits in there. He doesn't really fill the Curtis Samuel role that we saw some fantasy goodness out of last year. He's going to be the third wide receiver, and I think people are very disappointed because a lot of people were very high on him, myself included. And so that's my spot, and I got a queen of clubs, and I flip up 2 queens. All right.
Nice. Wow. Okay. Well, I'll talk about my guy, even though I'm not going to win. It'll be quick. We're just hosting a funeral today for our guy, Chuba Hubbard. He went from being a top. This is why all you guys out there you have all those 2,000 yards rushing, don't go back to school. You go to the NFL because look how fast his draft stock went. He went from being a quintessential running back top 5 to he got drafted to the Carolina Panthers sitting behind CMC. And even if, CMC gets hurt, I saw some other guys talk about that's a great spot for him. CMC's last year, I think, was a little bit of a fluke. I don't know how much run he's going to get there. Even if he gets some, it's still just such a down tall, especially Devy guys who drafted him probably in the first round last year of drafts. That's just an awful spot for him. So, yeah, mine was Hubbard.
All right, Kevin's flip, a 3 of hearts, and I win, and I am the show champion, so I finally get to wear the chain for the next show, and I'm not going to get punished for the first time the show. So that's very, very exciting. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit of blackjack. And the way this works, if you hit, you'll be presented with a trivia question. If you get it right, you can add or subtract your score or stay the same. Get it wrong, and the worst outcome will happen to you. All right. I need to fix the cards here. So if you guys want to fill the airtime with anything you want to talk about, I'll go ahead and fix the cards while I'm doing that.
Well, I will say, my man over here, Jeff's talking about Terrace Marshall's landing spot. I think in Dynasty, I don't hate it too much for 2 years. Like if Anderson leaves, he can kind of step in and be there with more. And you don't need to slander my boy Darnold every time. All right, I think that he's going to be a fine QB2 in this league, especially for fantasy.
All right, so we flip out here. Christian's got a queen of hearts. I flip a 2 of spades, and Kevin's got a 10 of spades. Christian's first flip, a 4 of hearts. So he's sitting on 14. I'm flipping out 11. I like that. And then Kevin is flipping out 20.
Let's go.
Sitting on 20. So Christian's obviously hitting. So I got a question for you, Christian, if you want it.
Sure.
So my question is, so you have to take yourself back before the fun of 5 days ago. And who was the last G5 player to go top 10 in the draft? Obviously, we saw Zach Wilson, but who was last before that?
Josh Allen.
It was not Josh Allen. His right team was Ed Oliver.
Oh, yeah, that's just too bad.
Yeah. So, but you got a 19 here, so you're going to have to hit again. So 19. I'll take you.
Can I wait? Can we go around and then?
Yeah,
then I can decide later. I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay on 19. I'm gonna wait. Oh no, I can't. Damn it.
You can't stay on 19.
Frick.
So here's the thing. So. All
right. Kevin, give me a question, dude.
All right. Do you want a music question or a football question?
Ooh, music sounds fun. I'll probably miss that one too.
We're gonna switch it up a little bit tonight. Have some fun. Who was the very first American Idol winner?
Kelly Clarkson.
Yes, you got it right. Look at you.
Absolutely. Yes.
I
busted though. That's just not great.
All right. Who's got a question for me?
I can go since Kevin just did. All right. Prior to Terrace Marshall being drafted on day 2, who was the last LSU wide receiver drafted on day 2?
Ooh.
Jarvis Landry.
No, it was DJ Chark. He was a second-round pick.
Oh, he was a second-round pick.
He sure was.
All right. So I got 15 or whatever it needs to be. I'm hitting again. Who's got another question for me?
So I'll give you this, but I'll give you some answers on this one. So it's a little harder. So which team has won the most overall conference championships in college football? Ohio State, USC, Oklahoma, or Nebraska?
Oklahoma.
Nebraska.
Nebraska's
won 54 conference championships. Can you believe that?
Yeah, they were winning, like, was it the Big 8 or whatever it was?
Yeah.
Beating Missouri every year. All right, so I busted. Well, actually, I've got everything wrong. So but I would have busted because I would have got it wrong. So, all right.
Yeah, give me the win. I need
Kevin wins.
Yeah,
Kevin means
you.
it. I won the show.
Even though I lost.
I still won the show. So, all right. So, obviously, I'm the show winner. So I get the crown. I get it next year. All right. Now we're going to go to, again, the McDonald's Happy Meal Box of Death. This we're going to pull some FCS teams. Obviously, last week I missed my pick. I had Bateman over 27.5, and he went under that. He went exactly 27, and I was heartbroken. And Kevin had Jalen Waddle under 11.5. He hit on that. So, all right, first pull. Who's got it?
I'll take it.
Christian.
My first pull ever.
Christian's getting Mr. Sam Houston.
Yeah, love it.
And then Kevin's pull.
Oh, here comes Delaware.
It is, in fact, Delaware.
I knew it.
Congratulations. So again,
that's
thank you for joining us at our unusual time. Next week, we will be back at our usual time at 9:30 on the Going for Two network. Be sure to catch us then. Until then,
I'm Kevin Coleman at DuBois_22.
I'm Jeff Bell at For Whom J. Bell Tolls.
And I am Christian Williams at C. Williams NFL, and this is the